listener production.
Hi, Natarsha Belling with you and welcome to the afternoon edition of The Briefing. Coming up in our deep dive, the viral video of the French President and his wife that sparked a controversial conversation. As they were jumping off a plane, Emmanuel Macron's wife was caught on camera appearing to slap her husband in the face. The president says they were play fighting, but was it a violent attack? And what message does downplaying it send? Ex-police officer and domestic violence advocate Craig Doran joins us with his thoughts. But first, let's check the afternoon headlines this Tuesday, the 27th of May. ATO Whistleblower Richard Boyle has pled guilty to a number of charges, including recording private conversations. The former debt collector went public over his concerns within the ATO, including allegations it used heavy-handed tactics on those who owed money to the tax office. A spokesperson from the Human Rights Law Centre says today is a heartbreaking day for Richard Boyle and whistleblowers, saying urgent law reforms to protect whistleblowers are needed. A 32-year-old woman has been arrested and charged with one count of murder over the death of a 3-year-old in Queensland. The child's body was discovered by police at a home in Bundaberg yesterday afternoon. And the Prime Minister is touring flood-hit communities in northern New South Wales. Hundreds of farmers, businesses and residents have lost everything, with appeals for help in the massive clean-up ahead. The Defence Force is now on the ground, with Mr Albanese promising to help those in need.
This isn't something that will go away in a matter of days or weeks or even months. This will take some time, the recovery, but Australians are resilient, they're tough, and we will come through this and we'll come through it together.
Meantime, Jackie Lambie has retained her Senate seat after a political battle with One Nation candidate Lee Hansen, the daughter of Pauline Hansen. And medical experts are pushing for more research into the causes of bowel cancer, with new data showing a concerning increase in cases. Australians under the age of 50 now have the highest rates of bowel cancer in the world. Professor Mark Jenkins, who was behind the new study, says younger Australians, especially those born in the 1990s, are now 2 to 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with bowel cancer than previous generations.
Young people across the region should be aware that you're never too young for bowel cancer, and also know the red flag signs and symptoms and have them investigated promptly to rule out bowel cancer as the underlying cause.
Now it's time to get into our deep dive on that viral video rocking the French president and his wife. Initially, government officials denied the accuracy of the video, which shows the 72-year-old appearing to slap her 47-year-old husband in the face. They then downplayed it, with Emmanuel Macron claiming they were just bickering and joking, adding the video was being overblown into, quote, a sort of geoplanetary catastrophe. So was it a playful slap or something far more serious? Ex-police officer and domestic violence advocate Craig Doran joins us. Craig, thanks so much for joining us. What are your thoughts on seeing this video?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I can't comment on the situation between the president and his wife, obviously, because I don't know the background there. But I mean, I agree. It certainly looked like he was caught to surprise, and I've seen all the articles come across around social media. But one of the things I think it's important that we really need to hold everyone accountable to the same standard, right? I mean, to brush this off as it's a funny incident that everyone's seeing on the internet is not a real good message. As an ex-police officer, I've worked on cases where the woman was the actual perpetrator, but those cases are pretty rare. But I think it's important for society that we all agree that domestic violence is absolutely not okay, no matter whether it's the woman or the man that's actually involved with it. So I think to throw this into a bit of a joke basket, it's probably not the best way to be treating it.
In regards to, there has been some conversations or chatter saying if this was a female that was struck in the face by a man, it would have been perceived very differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you imagine if he'd done that to his wife, then the world would be sort of turning on its head. They'd be flipping out about it, and it'd be in the paper for days and weeks. And what will happen, like the news cycle, this won't be seen as being that serious. They'll think it's almost a bit of a joke, and it'll be yesterday's news a lot quicker than if it would have been if actually he had done it.
The French President Emmanuel Macron has come out basically shutting down any speculation that it was any form of domestic violence. He says, quote, "It was play fighting, it was a bit of a joke, and that it's all been blown out of proportion." Would you agree with that?
Oh, look, again, like I don't know the background. I mean, there's always a chance that it was. It certainly, if you look at what his face looked like when it occurred, it certainly didn't look like it was play fighting or a bit of a joke. Then look, in saying that, the number of matters when I'd sort of gone to domestic violence incidents and had almost the same thing said, by the woman, said, "Oh no, we were just messing around." You can't always take that at face value, because more often than not, there is something else hidden in the background.
So in regards to this happening literally on the world stage, as the French president was about to step off a plane with his wife by his side, what kind of message do you think that sends out right now that this incident, whatever it may be, was caught on camera?
Look, I'm not sure the message is being sent out by it. I think the biggest concern is how we look at it and we try and play it down as a joke that's not that serious. And again, I'm sure there's probably nothing going on within that relationship that's outside that. Like, I don't have the facts for it as well, but it's just the way that we react to it, and we sort of play it down, saying it doesn't really count because it was a woman that was doing it. And like I said, I've been to domestic violence incidents where sometimes it has been the woman who's been the respondent or the perpetrator, but you keep in mind that at some point that the roles can flip and suddenly someone gets seriously hurt or murdered, and maybe the man that actually commits the crime. But the lead up to it, because no one took it seriously to start with because it was the woman, can lead to something even worse.
Is that a conversation after today that I guess we need to have, is the fact that, as you've rightfully said, domestic violence is domestic violence or family violence, no matter the gender of the perpetrator?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there was a report issued by the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet last year in 2024, which said, basically 4 out of 5 family domestic violence offenders in Australia are male. I suspect it's probably a little bit higher than that. But regardless, everything needs to be held to the same standard. It's really important that it doesn't matter whether it's the man or the woman that appears to be the perpetrator, because both those situations can lead to something really serious, like a death or a serious injury to either the male or the female. So domestic violence is domestic violence. It's as simple as that. It's not just domestic violence when the man is the perpetrator. And it's really important that we held everyone to the same standard, I suspect.
From an overall point of view, Craig, you've been on the front line as a police officer here in Australia. No matter what awareness campaigns or educational campaigns we do, it seems the stats are not changing, and they're not just statistics, they're victims of domestic violence, and the repercussions are huge throughout family and friends. What do you think is behind this still crisis that we have in our country of domestic violence?
Look, I think the world is becoming a very complex place. It's moving at an incredibly fast pace. The pressures on everyone, they're just increasing on a day-to-day basis. Everyone wants to be more than they are in life. With domestic violence, one of the things that always concerns me is the response to domestic violence is getting more and more complex, as in the response that police have to do to actually take action gets more complicated. There's more requirements and controls that need to be met. There's new legislation about coercive controls that's come into play quite recently, certainly in Queensland anyway. Talking to one of my colleagues just the other day, it's that complex how to prove coercive control in a domestic relationship that they're doing like a 2-day course just to understand the nature of the offence and how they should investigate it. When things become complex like that, then people start to take shortcuts. And when you start taking shortcuts around matters because it's too hard to respond to, then things can start getting missed. Like, what are some of the serious underlying concerns that are in the background? That's one of the things I've noticed about domestic violence, and it doesn't seem to be going down. No matter how many police you put on the road, there needs to be another approach to it for sure.
And what do you think, that's the multi-billion-dollar question, because if we had the answer, we'd enact it. What do you think is the other approach to it? Because no matter, as I mentioned earlier, all these educational campaigns, advertisements, it doesn't seem to be decreasing.
Yeah, it's a good question. One of the things I think's causing a bit of a problem, like I know there's a couple of areas in Queensland where they've shown that there's been a backlog of police actually getting out to domestic violence incidents. And if these sorts of things are going on and police can't respond, then the perpetrators don't have any fear of police turning up if they can't get there, right? I think the key thing is you've got to free up police to get their frontline capacity back out there. When a domestic violence incident comes, no matter how minor it is, because you don't know how bad it really is until you get there, if it's something just like shouting or yelling, then police need to be able to get there. And often things will just get triaged based on how bad it seems from the report. And it might be a lot worse than you know, but with police frontline capacity just so low and difficult for them to get out, I think one of the things they need to do is really be able to fix that problem first. So at least police can turn up quite quickly and respond at the first available opportunity, not turn up about a day later and then find everything's okay now. We don't need to do anything about it.
And Craig, we often see a lot of reports where there has been, devastatingly a death or a serious injury caused, and then that person, it's then revealed that there'd been a number of AVOs taken out beforehand. Is that also an element of the broken system, that they're just not easily enforced because, yet again, going back to your great point, there aren't the boots on the ground because of a lack of police resources?
Yeah, look, I think that's probably the case. So I think a lot of domestic violence, more often than not, probably goes unreported, and that's a problem, right? You can't find a solution if you don't know what the problem is. I think there's been a lot of incidents where people have died because of ongoing domestic violence, and often there has been some orders in place. But again, if police can't sort of get there and act upon it and take some action to sort of escalate the seriousness of it, then these things are potentially going to keep happening.
Craig, we appreciate your time today. It's an important conversation we need to have. Thanks again.
All right, thanks.
That was ex-police officer and domestic violence advocate Craig Doran. And that's it for this episode of the afternoon edition of The Briefing. We'd love you to subscribe or follow us on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast. I'm Natarsha Belling. Thanks for your company.